Hey everybody, welcome back. This is DM Gallibond and we're here for another Lore Friday from the Candlekeep Mysteries sourcebook. This time we are looking at The Curious Tale of Wisteria Vale, which is the adventure for level 11 PCs from Candlekeep Mysteries. Now, of course, Candlekeep Mysteries was published in March of 2021, and this one is a little bit of a different mystery than any of the others because you're trying to solve the mystery of a bard who is trapped inside a 3-act play. What do we mean by that? All right, so the setting for this particular adventure starts off in Candlekeep Library, and then it moves to a magical demiplane known as Wisteria Vale. The teaser for this is that the Harpers will send an agent who offers 5,000 gold pieces to the party if they can enter a magical demiplane and rescue a bard from an evil artifact that has trapped him there. Now, backstory on this particular adventure is that 3 years ago, a wizard member of the Harpers brought a book called The Curious Tale of Wisteria Vale to Candlekeep as an admittance gift and also for safekeeping. The wizard did not inform the archivist at the library that the book has trapped and is holding a bard and member of their own order in a demiplane inside until they can figure out a way to release him from the clutches of an evil artifact that has corrupted him. All right, so the way this thing starts is that the party is approached by a mage who's a member of the Harpers. She asks them to enter Candlekeep and go to the demiplane within a specific book and she gives them a magical dagger to carry with them. She'll pay them 5,000 gold if they will find a specific bard within that demiplane and pierce his flesh with the dagger, because doing so will free him from a terrible curse that has afflicted him because of a horrible magic item. Now, the dagger, they don't want the party to kill the bard, but obviously the bard doesn't want to be attacked. And as we'll find out, there's some other really strange things going on within this play that make it even harder than just simply finding a book, entering a demiplane, and finding a bard. All right, so let's take a look at what that will entail. All right, the mage will also tell the party there's a secret way to enter the demiplane that's contained within the book itself, but she doesn't know the details. And the bard they're hunting for is a chap named Errant Quill, and the demiplane is in the book, or the demiplane that is in the book is called Wisteria Vale. So PCs will head off to Candlekeep, and the archivist will give them the book, and they will set aside a private reading room where they can go to the demiplane without endangering anyone else in the library. When they reach the demiplane, the PCs discover that Wisteria Vale is reconstruction of an actual village by the same name that was destroyed more than a decade earlier. The villagers will happily tell the PCs, oh yes, we know Errant Quill, and that's his house right over there on the edge of town. But Errant hasn't been outside recently because he has a house guest. There's a beholder that suddenly appeared in the village a few days ago. But no, there's nothing to worry about. Errant Quill is seeing to the needs of the beholder, and in fact, he's going to be inviting the entire village to a banquet in his guest's honor in a few days. It'll be fun. Okay, yeah. All right. Sounds like a blast. It turns out that this beholder dreamed its way into the village from the Underdark to escape a threat to itself there. Now, you remember, if you guys watched Monster Monday a while back, earlier in 2021, we did a whole series on the Beholderkin on Monster Monday. And one of the things we learned about is they are paranoid, and their minds are so powerful that when they think about something hard enough, they can actually manifest many different types of things. And in fact, one of the paranoias of beholders is that another beholder will try to come and take all of their nifty stuff and take over their lair. And this paranoia, if it is not somehow checked, is what usually winds up actually spawning another beholder, which just sort of spontaneously appears, and then the two beholders battle. So, beholders cause a lot of problems for themselves and everybody else because of their paranoia. And then when beholders really try to do like basically the beholder version of lucid dreaming, they can not only imagine themselves somewhere, they can actually teleport themselves to another place, even a completely different plane of existence. If the PCs go to Errant Quill's house, they'll find that everything is not quite exactly as it seems. In fact, as the PCs interact with the villagers, they'll learn that none of them are actually flesh and blood humanoids, but they are constructs made from wood mannequins that look like real people until you inspect them too closely. Now, I'm talking to all the DMs out here. If you have players who play PCs with a roving eye and a desire for romance with NPCs, okay, these constructed commoners that make up the villagers, you could have a lot of fun with that, a lot of entertainment. Within the adventure, it is stated that if someone has over a certain DC passive perception, they will automatically notice that these commoners are not people, but there's something different about them. You, Mr. DM, Ms. DM, you can choose to change that DC to be whatever you want, or just conveniently dispose of it altogether. And you could have these constructed commoners seem completely lifelike for as long as you want them to be, to get the maximum humor effect out of your players trying to play them. If a player wants to be a player, then you have license to do whatever you want. And have the big reveal of, oh, yeah, this is really a department store mannequin. How quaint. At Quill's Manor, the party will meet Quill and a servant named Damien. There's also the Beholder, which may or may not attack the PCs immediately, depending on how they enter the house and how they come into the Beholder's chamber. Basically, whether they break into the chamber or whether they are invited into the Beholder's chamber. That will make the difference of whether the Beholder attacks them or not. Now, since the manor house that Errant Quill lives in has become a Beholder's lair, the PCs need to be very perceptive and investigate very carefully as they make their way through the house. There's quite a bit going on here that the PCs can discover by looking for all the clues and investigating everything they can find. And this is the kind of adventure that's going to really appeal to some players and really annoy other players. As a DM, once again, you can play around with this as much as you want. So, if you have those players that get really bored hunting for stuff, and they just say, I just want to make a roll, and they don't want to really get into doing the investigation, if you have players like that, you are probably going to want to minimize the amount of extra stuff that you toss in here, because there's already so much for people to find. On the other hand, if you have players who love to look at every detail and think that if you mention the shade of green that leaves are on the potted plant over in the corner, then it must mean that that shade of green or those leaves are somehow important. So you could, because of the fact that this is a beholder's lair, and that should probably put people on high alert for all kinds of traps and misdirection and all that kind of stuff, you could have fun sprinkling all sorts of little MacGuffins in here that have nothing to do with the plot of this particular adventure, but might even be connected to other things that you're doing in your campaign if you're going to drop this into a homebrew campaign. The entire demi-plane within the book will unravel, and the PCs will return to Candlekeep when one of two conditions happens. Either one, when they damage Errant Quill with the special dagger they were given, or two, when the bard dies. And with a beholder thrown into the mix, death is a very real possibility for the bard as well as a number of the PCs that are trying to rescue him. If the PCs successfully return to Candlekeep with the bard alive, they will be given the promised reward by the Harpers of 5,000 gold. However, if they return back to Candlekeep and the bard is dead, well, instead of that reward going to the PCs, that reward actually goes to pay to have the bard resurrected. So it's possibility that they could go on this quest and be told that there's 5,000 gold at stake for them, and then they get nothing if they botch up the rescue and they come back with the bard dead. So the most common enemies you're going to face in this particular adventure are going to be a bunch of constructs, and these are all level 0 constructs. So, the commoners, I should say, are all level 0 constructs. The toughest single encounter that you will face obviously includes the Beholder, which is a CR13 monster, and he's joined by 2 suits of animated armor, which are CR1 each. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're already dealing with a Beholder, 2 additional enemies on the battlefield can really tip the balance one way or the other in the fight. So what kind of special creatures or items might you find? There's the constructed commoners, which is unique to this particular adventure. There's a whole stat block and everything for them here. There's the Medusae. There is a beholder. And there is an instrument of the bards, a Klee lyre. My favorite elements of the adventure are the sort of whole Fabergé egg nested portals to dimensions within this entire adventure. So there's multiple portals to pocket dimensions and demi-planes within the house, and the way these are depicted is really creative. So this could serve as inspiration, like if you're trying to figure out how to do something with multiple pocket dimensions in an adventure you're running, reading through this adventure and seeing how the portals to these other pocket dimensions are portrayed, that might spark some ideas and have you think about ways that you could do something like that in your own game. Now, the layout of the house in the adventure is also a very cool map that could easily be adapted for another purpose. Maybe there's a noble, or maybe the PCs have a chance in your game to buy a manor house, or maybe they have to explore an abandoned manor house or something like that. That is a great map for something of that nature. So, easiest homebrew adaptation, maybe, just maybe, there was a friendly NPC that helped your player's party when they were baby adventurers, and now that NPC has gone missing. So if that NPC was a bard, you could always swap that bard in your game for Errant Quill and send the party to try to find him, leading to an interaction with the mage that might know what has happened to him and how the party could go rescue him. Using this adventure with other adventures, the constructed commoners are unique. However, most of the other monsters are fairly standard. Like I said, there's Medusas in here, there's the animated armor, there's Beholder. Uh, it's all pretty much standard fare that has been in most editions of D&D. And those constructs can easily be swapped out for the stat blocks of unleveled humanoids in other editions of the game. We have, every humanoid or every edition of D&D, you go in and you look up either humans or humanoids or whatnot, and then there's this whole array of different types of people you would run into, and one of them is always 0 level commoners, basically. And so you just swap out the stat block in whatever edition you're going to run this in for that, and then just call them constructs instead of being humanoids. And that's it. Well, that's a little bit about this particular adventure. Hope that you enjoyed this little preview. I think it would be a fun adventure to run. It's got a little bit of mystery in it. It's got some comedy, potential for comedy, and it's got some really cool potential for combat with going and fighting a beholder. I mean, fights against beholders are always crazy because of the sort of the random nature of the way those eye stalks fire off, and you never quite know what the dice are going to say about which eye stalks are going to fire during combat and in which particular round. All right, that's going to do it. We'll talk to you all later, and we hope we see you back next week here for Lore Friday. Remember, please like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell, and have a good evening. Good night, everybody.